Hey guys, and welcome back to another tips and tricks video for Friday the 13th the game. Some of you may be wondering why I'm making another knife throwing video when I already have one up on my channel. The reason I'm making another one is because I got a comment on my previous knife throwing video from someone who explained to me what they're finding frustrating about the quick throw, and after reading their comment I realized I could have done a better job of explaining the quick throw by going into more detail. So that's why I'm redoing it, and I'm also updating it with a few new techniques you'll see towards the end of the video. So this is the comment I received that I was telling you about, and it reads as, "Aiming the throwing knives is still a frustrating problem for me. I see in your videos it always hits off the right shoulder. When I play it targets a different point every time based on the angle of the camera, and I'm always moving the camera. Any advice for dealing with that, or just lots and lots of practice until perfect?" He made some really good points about the camera angle, and that's something I neglected to talk about in my previous video. After reading that comment, I started to brainstorm some ideas and tried to come up with some ways that someone could improve that aspect of their game, and I came up with some practice/warm-up stuff that you can do in offline play that will help you get better at positioning the camera on target. So without further ado, let's take a look at some of these practice warm-ups. Okay, so this is one of the practice warm-ups. What you're going to want to do is find a window and stand fairly close to it when you're first starting out. I like to imagine a center line just over the right shoulder of Jason. When I move the camera angle around, I'm trying to visualize this center line to help me correctly line up the camera angle so that I'm on target. Even though you can't see this imaginary center line, try to visualize it while moving the camera angle around. After practicing this for a while, you'll start to develop a sense for where your center line is just by looking at the camera movement. Once you have the hang of this, line up your center line with your shoulder and then tap L1 to throw. This is the same exact clip I just previously showed you, but this time I left the center line on so I could show you how you should be trying to visualize this imaginary center line. It's going to take some practice to get the feel for where your center line is just by looking at the camera movement, but don't get discouraged if you're missing when you're first starting out. Each time you miss, you're learning what you're doing wrong, and the more you play around with it, the better you'll get at guessing where your center line is. The purpose of this exercise is to put your camera angle in all sorts of weird angles, down, up, right, left, whatever you choose, and see if you can correctly reposition the camera angle so that your center line is on target. The more you practice this, the better you'll get at identifying when your camera angle is off in some weird direction, and you'll be able to make the appropriate corrections to your aim. This is another similar exercise where you're going to put your camera angle in all sorts of weird angles, but this time you're going to incorporate walking when you try to fix your camera angle/center line so that it lines up with your target. It's important to build confidence when you're first starting out, so start out really close to the window at first, and as you start to build confidence with your aim, go further and further back. This exercise will mimic real gameplay the most because you're having to adjust your aim while walking or running, which is something we're always doing when we play as Jason. So what you're going to want to do is start walking and turn your camera angle all around, up, down, left, right while you're walking, and then try to adjust your camera angle so that your imaginary center line lines up with your target, the window. You may be looking at these clips thinking, he makes it look so easy. Whatever you do, don't measure your own progress against what you see me doing in this video. This technique takes some time to get better at, and you will miss a lot of your throwing knives when you're first starting out, but stick with it and keep practicing and you will improve. Believe me, when I was first starting out trying to learn this technique, I was terrible, just unbelievably bad at it, but with some practice, I was able to improve. Okay, in the very next clip I'm going to show you a side-by-side clip where I show you the differences in the way I target a camp counselor at different ranges. At close range you can pretty much throw your knife while you're dead centered with the counselor, but with mid-range to far range you want to target the counselor off of your right shoulder. I'll be demonstrating what this looks like in the next clip so you have a better idea of what I'm talking about. In this side-by-side, close range is on the left and mid-range is on the right. You'll be able to see the differences in the way I target from close range to mid/far range. You'll see at close range I'm dead centered with my targeting, and at mid-range I'm targeting more from my right shoulder. This is an important part of this technique and something you should take note of. This is a close range throw. See how I'm more dead centered with the counselor when I throw my knife? And this is a mid-range throw. See how I'm targeting off of my right shoulder when I throw my knife? These are small adjustments you'll have to make with different distances. I really suggest starting out with close range throws when you're first starting out, but later on when you start to build confidence in your aim, you might want to challenge yourself by learning how to quick throw from farther distances, and a good way to do this is by practicing on windows. From farther distances, you always want to line up your target with your right shoulder like you see in this clip. After you've done all the practicing on windows and you've gotten a feel for how to correct your aim and line up your center line with the window, then move on to bots and start practicing on them. Start out at close range and build your confidence. Bots will always be a good place to practice and hone your skills. In the next segment of clips, I'm just going to show you some real gameplay of me utilizing the quick throw and give some of my opinions on it and talk about why I think it's worth learning this technique. So without further ado, let's take a look at some of these clips. In this clip, I keep hitting the counter with the quick throw over and over again, but they have the medic perk equipped, so they keep healing themselves. The medic perk can be really helpful in certain situations like this, but if I had my shift, I would have used it to close the distance and I would have started slashing while they tried to heal, but unfortunately I didn't have my shift at the time. I'm trying to avoid being shot, so I'm doing everything I can to make it more difficult for this player. I'm twisting, I'm turning, I'm throwing knives, I turn on my stock to give the player VHS static, then I get my shift and I go for the grab, which was a mistake. I should have gone for the slash instead. Lots of players have a false sense of security when they're inside cabins. Use this to your advantage to target them with throwing knives as they start to let their guard down. So let's talk about why you should use the quick throw. Well, one reason I use the quick throw is because it's fast and counselors don't see it coming, and because they don't see it coming, they can't react as good to it. Another reason to use it is because it's a lot of fun to use and it's a really rewarding feeling when you're able to do it successfully. I deliberately target the window with my knife to cause glass damage to the counselor. I then wait for the counselor to be fully standing upright and out of the dive animation before throwing my knife, and I'll be talking about why that is important in another future tips and tricks video. Even when you start to get good at this technique, you'll miss from time to time because each time you use the quick throw, you're guessing where your center line is, and you won't always be correct when you're making these guesses. Even the best players that use this technique miss from time to time, so don't beat yourself up if you miss every now and again. In this clip you see me using the quick throw multiple times to cripple the player. Normally I wouldn't keep throwing my knives at a player once they're crippled. There is no point in wasting a valuable resource like knives on a player that's already crippled. The only reason you see me continue to throw my knives at this injured player is because I was trying to showcase the quick throw, but normally I don't do this because it's kind of a waste of your knives. Here are some clips of me using the quick throw at further distances. It can be fun to try and challenge yourself and throw at further distances, but you can also run the risk of a higher percentage of missing, so you have to weigh your options if it's worth it or not. Sometimes you're better off pre-aiming like you see in this clip. Some players climb through windows right in front of Jason, and this is super dangerous when you're playing against someone that knows how to quick throw. You're better off leaving earlier rather than waiting till the last second, because a Jason player that knows how to quick throw is going to hit you 9 times out of 10 when you're trying to go through a window right in front of them. When that knife hits you, it pulls you out of the climb animation and brings you back inside, and you really don't have much time to react and are most likely getting grabbed. When you're slashing a camp counselor, incorporate your quick throw in between your slashes to kill the counselor quicker. It can be a lot of fun to incorporate your knives, shift, slashes, and put it all together to put a ton of pressure on the person you're playing against and make it really hard on them. This is a technique where you incorporate your shift with your quick throw, and it's pretty helpful in certain situations. So let's take a look at some examples of it being used. So this is what the technique looks like. You line up your shift with the counselor and you stop your shift and you do a quick throw right away. These are the controls to do this technique. You start your shift with R1 and square, then release both and hold R1 to go into your side shift so that you have more control over your shift. You're going to try to line up your shift with the counselor the best you can, and then you're going to press square to stop your shift, then tap L1 right away to do a quick throw. I like to use this technique when counselors are climbing through windows. I'm sure we've all gone for the grab on a counselor that's climbing through a window only to find out they're too far into the climb animation for us to get the grab on them, and then we're just grabbing at air as they climb through the window to safety. This technique is a great counter to a situation like that because you can pull a counselor out of the climb animation with a knife and get the grab on the counselor like you see in these clips. You may be thinking, wow, this technique seems like it would be hard to do, but actually it's surprisingly easy once you get the hang of it and practice it a little. A good way to start practicing this technique would be an offline play with targeting windows like I showed you in the beginning of this video. So this is what you would do. Start your shift, then go into your side shift, then line up your shift with the window and press square to stop your shift, and then tap L1 for the quick throw and see if you can break the window. After you've practiced this technique on windows, then you should try doing it on bots and see how you do. Then once you feel confident with this technique, take it into a real game. The more you play around with this technique, the more comfortable you'll get with it, and it will start to become second nature and something you don't even think about when using the controls. Another thing you can do is shift in close to the counselor, then quick throw, then follow it up with a slash to cripple the player, and then finish them with slashes. Here's just another example of the technique being used up close with slashes to kill the player quickly. Well, that wraps up this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and if you're new to my channel and you like my content, subscribe to stay up to date with future tips and tricks videos like this one. Thanks for watching, and see you on the next one.